Our beavers have been doing so well recently, with everything just slotting so very nicely into place for them. They have their power requirements now met for them, and soon they'll have their food sorted as well. So, I think it's time to kick things up a notch, methinks. I am pretty happy with how our industry area is now starting to come along. The only real complaint that I have is the lack of overall productivity. The gear workshops take in one plank and every 6 hours they make one gear from it. So in an average working day of 16 hours, we can usually make just over 2 gears from the one workshop. The lumber mills that make the planks are a bit of a different story, as they take in one log and every 1.3 hours they make one plank from it, which, if you compare that to the 6 hours required to make one gear within the gear workshop, we can essentially make just over 4 planks within the same 6-hour period. It is a little bit more than that, but for simplicity's sake we'll just call it 4. But all of that is to say that one lumber mill can supply 4 gear workshops with the planks that they create within the working day. And as we have 5 lumber mills set up, but only 4 gear workshops, then we are always going to overproduce on planks and underproduce on gears. So taking all of that on board, coupled with the fact that we will eventually have more builds to place down within this area here, then I feel, as nice as this area is looking at the moment, it is definitely needing a substantial remodel. I have also pretty much neglected all of the different needs of our beavers, apart from their most basic ones, which I know that we really shouldn't, because if we can meet their expectations on these things, then we can actually get some pretty neat bonuses to help them out even further. And our beavers definitely have a lot of different type of needs that we can fulfill for them, for a lot of different bonuses. Bonuses such as increased strength, more carrying speed, a longer life expectancy, and probably most importantly, a faster working speed. Which I believe, if we could meet some of those needs, then that could also help us with the overall productivity. So the too long didn't listen, because I know that I certainly droned out during that. I'm going to rip down a lot of buildings today, and we are going to transform our entire colony just so that we can increase its overall productivity and happiness of our beavers. So here is my thinking. We have 5 lumber mills already set up, with each of them producing 4 planks every 6 hours, or 20 planks in a single working day. Those planks could essentially then feed up to 20 gear workshops every day, which would work out to be roughly 40 gears every day. 20 gear workshops do sound a bit excessive, especially whenever you compare it to only having 5 lumber mills. So although we could, I think I'll meet them in the middle and just go for 10 gear workshops. That will still be 20 gears made every day and some spare planks. But we are already far too busy on this side of our industry area for any more builds, so I'm thinking about expanding over to the opposite side for them instead. Which we will do, but first I'll need to remove all of the buildings already built here, starting off with the large water tanks. But we've already made a start on relocating those water tanks to the opposite side of our colony. So our beavers will start emptying the other tanks and then move the water over to these ones instead. The builders' huts and hauler posts are also going to be in the way of our new expansion, so we will also relocate those buildings to the other side as well. And just to ensure that our beavers won't start dehydrating to death, or worse, becoming unemployed, we will wait until they have constructed more of these newer builds first, before we rip down the older ones. I'm also going to place down some more platforms along the riverside here, and then place in some new deep water pumps on top of them. because eventually I'll need to remove the older water pumps to clear some more room there as well. I also want to try out a new idea for the new gear workshop setups that we'll have, which will involve some further platforms built behind and then the removal of the existing 2 workshops, but then we'll replace them straight back in, just 1 tile away, in a line with each other, so that we can fit 3 of them in instead of just the 2. And now that I can see it laid out like this, what I might do is have 5 gear workshops on this side, and maybe just 3 lumber mills nested in front. And then we'll have a mirror image set up on the other side with another 5 gear workshops and another 3 lumber mills. So that will be 10 gear workshops and 6 lumber mills in total. Sounds good to me, so let's start clearing some space. And now that our beavers have started constructing the new water pumps, I can now also start removing the older ones. This is always a dangerous game to play, especially with a drought lurking around the corner at every turn. Water is starting to look a bit tighter than I would like it to, so hopefully all of this effort will be worth it down the line. Little stranded idiots like this one here really don't help matters. Well, he got lucky, so go free, little idiot. Oh, for God's sake. That's this area now pretty much prepared. I'm still quite concerned about our water situation, but I think we'll continue on regardless with our expansion plans, which I'm just going to copy what we have on the other side. So we'll start off with our industrial log piles, then we'll get the large warehouses placed on top, and then our 3 lumber mills nicely nested in between. We'll place down the tall row houses just behind, followed by some platforms, and finally our 5 gear workshops just along the length of it. So this setup should now be a mirror image of the opposite side, so all that's left to do is to get it all connected up with some paths. It looks a bit messy and complicated at the moment, but once our beavers start constructing it, then I think it should start falling into place very nicely. Lovely stuff, guys. You know I love all of this progress. That's the drought now started, and I'm really starting to get worried about our water supplies. The drought is going to last for 6 days, and I believe our beavers require at least 2 pieces of water every day. And seeing as we have 140 beavers within our population, then that is a minimum of 300 pieces of water every day. So we are going to keep a very, very close eye on this number. But our little beavers are still working hard, so I will let them just continue to keep building here, even throughout the drought. The riverbed has now unfortunately dried up, which is going to be problematic. We have 4 days left of the drought and a maximum supply of 950 water, which with our beavers requiring 300 every day, then we only have supplies for 3 days tops, just to get us through this 4-day drought. So I get the feeling that our little beavers are going to start getting rather thirsty in just over 3 days' time. I do have a potentially stupid idea to try out though, which will involve placing down a water pump here into our aquatic farm, which at least for the moment does still have some water inside of it. It's such a pointless thing doing this, but any little bit of water that we can get may just make the difference. The drought has now come to an end, as has our water supply, and we have an awful lot of thirsty beavers. So this water really, really needs to get a move on, as we need it desperately. This is so unbelievably tight at the moment, and unfortunately, we have had our first death due to dehydration. But with all of our water pumps now back up and operational, hopefully that will be the first and only death due to it that we'll have. Anyway guys, that's power back on, so let's make some progress. Well, it sure took a moment with all of our beavers prioritising the collection of water, but we now have up our new lumber mills and the first new gear workshop. So I would say then that that's pretty much phase 1 of the remodel now complete. On to phase 2 next, which is going to involve our food processing builds. The bakery builds can make our beavers bread, cattail crackers and maple pastries, with the grist mills being able to turn wheat into wheat flour and cattail into cattail flour. The maple syrup for the pastries will come from our maple trees, which we'll need to set up a tapper shack to collect that, which we can unlock one for 500 science, so we'll do that, and we'll clear out a space near the maples for the shack. But for our food processing builds over here, what I'm going to do is clear a bit of space to begin with, and then we will place down some new bakeries in their place. As for the grist mills, because they are wider than they are long, they could fit at the back here, but I think that would be some wasted real estate. So for the next step, it's a fairly controversial one, but I think we will remove the engine builds set up here and place the grist mills down in their place. I will play around with this idea on the other side to begin with, so that we don't need to mess around with their power at the moment. So that's now looking good. That's pretty much the same as the original side. Now to place down the grist mills, which I'm going to place some large foundations underneath, and then have our smelters built on top. And with the addition of some platforms, we'll then place the grist mills just behind the smelters, maybe something like this. So phase 2 of the remodel could then potentially look something like this, which if we wanted to do the same on the original side, then we would need to remove the engine builds. But I have another idea as to where we could put them, and as long as our district centre could reach them, as well as us having the amount of logs required to supply them with fuel, then that could potentially be 10 engines that we could have set up instead. But I'm not sure if our district centre can reach them or not, so I'll get some pathing put in and we'll see. Which unfortunately, our reach is only to here at the moment. Although that may change just after they create the stairs here, maybe not. Okay, I may need to reconsider our pathing issues here, but I'm still thinking that this setup for our engines could work. And even if I can't get the pathing to work, we can simply stick in a new district for them anyway. Anyway, I fear as if another drought is incoming, so let's set our new food processing builds to highest priority, so at least we have some food going into it. Because I believe we now have our water under control for it, but our food is definitely looking a bit empty. And I almost forgot that our new builds will require some power into them, which, to be fair, really isn't that difficult to connect them. On the topic of power, we will need to connect up our new engines, which I'm thinking a simple setup like this should work. It's certainly starting to look a bit of a monster, but this definitely could give us the productivity boost that we have been looking for. Some troubleshooting later, and quite some time later, as in a lot later, our beavers have finally made a lot of progress with the new builds. They are still busily working away at the food processing builds at the moment, but now that some of the grist mills and bakeries are up, we can start turning the new crops that we have stored into some new tasty food for them. All of the new lumber mills and gear workshops are now up and operational, So I believe we now have the potential to create around 72 planks every working day, as well as 20 gears every working day. And once all of our smelters are up and operational, then I believe we will have the potential to create over 30 metal ingots every day as well. So I would definitely say that this has all been quite some transformation. This is a monster of a build whenever I do see it like this, and it is only going to get bigger as we add more builds and technologies to it. But it does now have the boosted productivity that we have been looking for, which means that all of our future builds should be constructed a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. It's just the new power that we need to sort out now, which we will do next time.